Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, in this episode I want to show you how to do an easy Photoshop manipulation. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, my name is Serge Germany. I'm a French photographer from the amazing city of Paris, living in Los Angeles, California. And my purpose on this channel is to help you master Lightroom and Photoshop so that you can become a better artist, so you can sell as a fine art artist, so you can get better exposure. And a great way to learn Photoshop is to do easy Photoshop manipulation. So let me show you. For example, so we're going to start here. We have a base, which is a photo I shot here in Los Angeles. And then I'm going to add this right side shot in New Zealand. I'm going to make it darker. And then I'm going to make it even more darker. And I'm going to add the left side. I'm going to make it even more darker. I'm going to change the sky. And then I add the sky. And then I make it a bit brighter. And then I'm going to add some 3D elements that I'm going to give you. You can download all the files below that you can add on this kind of photography. I actually made this with a 3D software, and I will make another tutorial next Friday on how you can do this also with a 3D software, a free 3D software called Blender. That is kind of the final result we're going for. I might do some little tweak on the version I'm going to do on this tutorial. This is just something I prepared before. So let's start up with the beginning. The first photo is this one, the Santa Monica photo. It's a RAW file, so I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to do some basic camera retouching, which is basically open up a bit the shadows, maybe opening up the whites. I want to blow out the sky here. So I'm going to move the highlights all the way, because if you want to change your sky, it's very important that it's the most possible white. It's just the easiest way to replace sky is if your sky is white. So I'm making it much more white. I'm going to make the whole photo a little bit brighter and maybe just add a bit of, I'm not going to touch anything else. I'm just going to press OK for now. Because it's a RAW file, I will be able to just double click on it as a smart object, and I go back to Camera Raw and I can change everything. So that's kind of my base. Now, the one thing I'm going to add on top of that is the Mountain View photo. So what I'm going to do, this is another RAW file. I'm going to use the Move tool. I'm going to drag and drop it here above the Santa Monica photo. Okay, no problem. Yes, you can say there's different depths. No problem, just say yes. And so we've got two RAW files that's going to be on the top of each other. Voila. So I'm going to use the crop tool here to make my base a bit bigger. So I'm going to make it a lot bigger because I want to include this RAW file. Voila. Press enter. So, and now I'm going to mix up both of these RAW files. And I like to keep the RAW files raw because I can make the color match a lot better in a more natural way, I find. So, okay, we got two RAW files on the top of each other. I'm going to take the Move tool to move this one in the right place. So on this one, what I'm going to do is I want to make a selection. I want to isolate each part of the cliff. So I'm going to take the Quick Select tool, and this has become so much easier now. The Quick Select tool is so cool because back a few years ago when you had to make a selection like this, it was not easy. So now the Quick Select tool is so easy to use. All you have to do is take two fingers, you take the Control and Alt key on your keyboard, you make it bigger or smaller, and you brush over that first cliff. Okay, now that I've brushed over that first cliff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. Okay, so it's isolate just this part. Then I'm going to right click and do New Smart Object via Copy, and that's going to create another version of this. This time I'm going to delete the layer mask. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to isolate the left part, including here, this little part here. I need to make sure this layer is not visible. This layer is not visible. And so if you went overboard, you can just press the Alt key and you can just basically refine your selections. Okay, so I only have a selection of that. That's good, that's good, that's good. Actually, I'm missing something here. So you can zoom in with Z and W to get back the Quick Select tool. I'm going to make a selection. And when you have something that's a little rough here, you can go here and Select and Mask. So Select and Mask is an option that just helps you to refine your mask. In some cases, the Quick Select tool was not able to get everything. So for this, you just use this tool that looks like little hairs and a brush. Same thing, you hold on the Alt and Control and you move your mouse to make it bigger or smaller, and just brush over the difficult areas. And the software is going to do its best to basically correct this. But we'll see. We'll refine the mask later on. So you can see here we have a bit of issue. Now, all the red that you see here is because I have an option in the view here. It's just different mode. Your software might look like this, or it's just different ways to see the mask, or like this, or like this. I like to use the overlay because the overlay shows red. So red is not selected and what is in normal color is selected. That's just my thing. Okay, so that's all I do. All I did was click that little tool and brushed here, okay? Then I'm gonna click on, I'm gonna make sure I'm output to selection. I'm gonna click OK. So now I got a selection and I can just click on the mask and automatically it's gonna create a selection for this, okay? All right, so now we have a mask here. I can reactivate this one. So you can see now that we've got basically the right side, the left side. We have a bit of an issue here. And then we have the river that's behind. But first, how do you correct a mask once you've done it with a quick select tool? Like here, I have an issue, and that really is something you need to learn. And I have a very easy way to do it. The first step is you alt-click on the mask. So you can really see the mask. What is white is what is selected, and what is black is what is not selected. Okay. Next, you press O for the what you're looking for. Right now, I'm looking for the burn tool. So you got dodge tool and burn tool. So what the burn tool is going to do is look for something that is not completely dark and make it darker. So you can see here's this part here is where we have a weird selection. I'm gonna make sure I'm on mid-tones, at exposures at 50. I'm gonna make my tool a little bit bigger. And as I brush, check what happens. Basically what is kind of like in the mid-tones is not becoming black, and it's helping me refine my mask, okay? So that's the first step, is taking everything which is not quite dark and make it darker, okay? And now I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna go here, that little and I'm gonna take the dodge tool, and on this one, I'm gonna, well, you can start with highlight. So the idea of the dodge tool is the reverse. It takes anything which is kind of bright, and as you brush over it, it makes it brighter. I want a mask that is white and black, okay? And right now it's kind of white with a bit of gray and black. So if I brush now, you see, and I make my white whiter, and now we can see a more definite. So, and you go back and forth. So now I have to take back the burn tool, and you can see here it's not doing something really good there. So we can try to take shadows, see if it does a better job. Shadows is going to look for darker tones. Okay, that's already much better. We might have to tweak things, but I think that should be good enough. So now you just click on the photo again, and let's see here. So now I can place my elements using the move tool. I can move this here to the left. I want to crop the photo. Actually, you know what? I'm going to crop the photo right now. I want to make it 4x5. 4x5 is, and by the way, this is an amazing tip. I got coached recently by somebody who's got over 250,000 followers on Instagram, and he told me that, you know, I had a lot of photos which were in portrait mode on Instagram, and if I were to put them by 4x5, I would get more likes, and I sort of didn't believe it. So I reposted some of the photos that I had in portrait mode, in landscape mode, in portrait mode, 4x5, and I got almost 50% more like on the same photo. So it's really true. So I'm gonna go to ratio. I'm gonna go 4x5, which is the classic Instagram look. And then I'm just gonna make it, yeah, maybe a little bit bigger. I wanna make it something like this. Voila, press enter. So that's just gonna be my basic canvas. I'm gonna make sure delete crop pixel is not on. Press enter. And that's just gonna give me a little more space, and that's gonna be the final format that I want. So now I can move things around. I'm gonna take the left cliff. I'm gonna put it here, maybe at the bottom. And when you want to select something, you can either click on the layer itself and move it around like this, or you can right click and you see it's going to detect whatever is below that the mouse, and then you can move it around. So I want to do something like this. That's kind of cool. I also wanted more space in the cliff, and voila. And now I can add this. So I got to work on this photo because I got to erase also the white that's there. So one way to do that is I can basically, there's different ways I can go about this. I'm going to zoom in using the Z key. Let's try the same technique. I'm going to go here, quick select tool, and I'm going to make a rough selection here of the sky. And I'm going to click here in the select and mask. And you can see that we have some small trees there. I'm going to make my tool a bit smaller, and I'm just going to brush all over here. So it's going to pick up all these trees, okay? Now I have a selection of that, and I'm going to make a mask. Oh, so when that happens, because I selected the sky and created a mask. So basically it's showing me the sky and nothing else. So what you want is to reverse your mask. So what you do is you click on the mask and you press Command I to inverse the mask. So you can see now the mask is reversed. Everything which is white, which is where the sky was, is invisible, and the black is visible, which is where there is the land. Okay, so now I can add this, and I can add some sky, which I will do right now. So now I got a good composition of my 3 elements, and I can put in the sky. So I'm going to go here on the top layer. I'm going to find my sky, which is here. Again, you can download if you want. All of that is below the video. I'm going to drag and drop it here on my Santa Monica Mountain. Okay, don't show again, it's fine. Different depths result, not a problem for this one. Okay, so here is my sky. So the sky is, I basically maybe want to put it here, and I'm going to press Command T and hold on the Shift key just to, it's basically going to expand this because I want some of this yellow here to be visible. I'm going to try something like this. So now it's kind of weird because it's here, and like, how do we do for the rest? Well, I'm going to press Enter, and then I'm going to press Command J, or you can drag and drop this on this little icon to duplicate the layer. Then I'm going to press Command T and flip vertical. And then, very important, you have to hold on the Shift key, and then you can move your sky, and it's going to make a perfect mirror. Okay, and you put it exactly where it's supposed to be, and now you've got a perfect mirror of the sky. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to right click and merge layer. So now we have only one layer with this. And you're like, okay, but then how do we blend it with the rest? Thank you for asking. Let me show you. I'm going to put this into multiply mode. And multiply mode, what that's going to do is it's going to basically show me, I messed up here because you see we can see too much of the reflection. There's too much of the reflection here. So what you can do is you can just move this a little bit lower. Yeah, I don't want this pattern to be repeated so much. And then you can always like use the stem tool, press S for stem tool. Like this is not natural because I can copy whatever is there here to erase that so we have a more clean sky. Okay, something like that. So that's good. But you see it's way too dark. So how do we do this? Well, there's different ways you can go about this. One way I like to do is to work with curve. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to click curve. Okay. But now if I move the curve up and down, it's going to affect everything. Okay. I only want to make the sky a little bit brighter. So if you press that little button here, that little square with a little arrow, you press this. Now the curve only affects the sky and nothing else. So I can make my sky a little bit brighter. All right. So now that I blended the sky, you can see the problem is that we can see some of the sky here and here and a little bit too much in the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off. I'm going to click on this layer. I'm going to go not using the quick select tool, but the magic wand tool. I'm going to make sure that sample all layers is active. And I'm going to click just one time in the middle here. It's going to make a rough selection of all this transparent part. Then I'm going to go to select and I'm going to inverse that selection. So now basically what I did is I just selected all the land, the river and the other side of the cliff. Okay. Now I'm going to go back. While this is selected, you can see clearly what my selection is. And on this one, I'm going to go to filter. Oh, so it's important to have, I'm actually going to shrink that selection because you don't want, when you do this technique, you don't want any of the rocks to be selected. So what I can do is I can take the lasso tool. It's just a little trick to refine. And I can hold on the Alt key and I'm just going to do a little thing here. And it's going to take off that selection because I don't care about this part. And maybe even take off that part here. I just want a rough selection of this, which is what I got, okay? Once you have a rough selection of your land, you can go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then I'm gonna do a very strong Gaussian Blur, like over 100. Check it out, if you click the preview, before and after, you look in this part here, you can see that we don't see anymore the clouds. The clouds have been blurred, okay? And the problem now is that it's blurring the clouds in the water. So one way to do that is before you make the selection, you can make this a smart object. I'm going to convert this to a smart object. And now if I go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to use a very strong value and press OK. So the blur is being applied on the sky, so which is good because we don't see the clouds. But I wanted that we were able to see the reflection in the water. So I can take this mask here. B for brush. Remember, white reveals, black conceals. Okay. So in this case, I want to conceal. I want to take out, because you can see here everything that is white has been blurred. I don't want to blur too much where the water is. Okay. I'm going to take a black brush. And I'm going to make sure the opacity is very low, like 40%. And I'm going to brush here. And what that's going to do is bring back some of the reflection of the clouds in the water. Okay. All right. So now it's already looking a bit better, but it's still too strong. So I'm going to make another mask here. And I can brush where I don't want, the sky to be blended too much. So, but this time I'm going to lower even more the opacity of the brush. Like... So basically I'm taking out, the problem is you need to make sure, I'm taking out the sky replacement, but you can see here it's making a problem because my brush is too big. So I'm going to press X to add back the sky here. Opacity 100%. I want to make sure I get the sky here for sure. And okay, X again to go back as black. So you always play with X to go black is going to erase what this layer is doing, and white is going to show what it is. But if you do that at 20%, you're going to take it out or put it back very lightly. I hope that's clear. And so I'm going to brush. Oops, you see my brush is, the hardness is too much. I'm going to put a hardness at 50. The softness is too big because I'm going to press Command Z to undo that. Okay, I'm just going to brush here. I just want to bring back some light in this part here. And you can see one of the problems that I have is that this whole scene, like especially here, it's just way too dark. This whole place is way too dark. I actually don't want to make this brighter. So I'm going to brush that out. I can see now that I blend the sky that this whole thing is just, I'm just going to put it back how it was by brushing white. White is going to bring back the sky. So the problem is that now that I blended the sky, I can see that all the rest of my elements are too dark. But remember, they are smart objects. So I can double click on this one. And this is where it takes time because you have to play around with all the smart objects. And this one I can just open the shadows even more. I can, boost the exposure, maybe add a bit more magenta and press OK. So now you went into camera file, you did a few things like what we do in Lightroom, and then you update and you see, okay, that's kind of better, but I need to do the same thing for the left cliff and the right cliff. So the good thing is because I did smart object from copy earlier, normally if I'm right, if I open the shadows on one, it's going to do on both. So I open the exposure. I'm going to actually lower the highlights, maybe warm it up a little bit and see. So I'm just trying to bring back some details on the cliff. Okay, not bad. You can see a little bit more what's happening. Now I'm going to compare to the first time that I did it, how I did it. Yeah. I did it, actually my sky was a lot more brighter in the original photo. So that's the other thing I didn't do yet, and that's, I can make, I actually did it, I can make my sky a lot brighter, so I'm gonna reactivate this. But we can see here, we still have too much red here and here. There's a bit too much red there, so I can go on this layer, so that's the layer that goes with the sky, and then I can just make sure I have like, maybe 10%, and then I'm brushing with black, and I'm just gonna take this part out. I don't want too much of the red here. I do want the photo to be a bit red, but not that red. Okay, but now this is a little too bright and this is dark enough. So how do you do this? How do you make this a little bit darker? Like, it doesn't match because this was taken during the day, this was taken during the night. We need to match all of that. So that's, for me, this one is way brighter. Let me see how I did it the first time. You see, I made it very dark here and very dark here. I'm just comparing to what I did the first time. Yeah. Okay, so, well, that means I just did it too much. Okay, so I can go back on my original raw file and then, open less of the shadows, maybe in less of the exposure, make it less bright. Yeah, that was too much. And it should just match a little bit better. It should be darker. Yeah, that's better. Now, we can see here that we have some highlights here, and that's really a problem for me because it doesn't look natural at all. So I need to do something about that. So I'm going to go above. So you see, this is the left side. The left side has a bit of highlight here. And this is the right side. So above the right side, I'm going to create an empty layer that I'm going to call dark. I'm going to call it burning, actually. I'm going to burn the photo. So burning means putting this, so it's an empty layer that I'm going to put into an overlay mode. Overlay mode makes that when you take a brush that is a bit dark or white, it's going to make it brighter or darker at this place. So what I want is that I want a brush that's dark, maybe about 24%, and I'm just going to brush and I want to erase, I want to darken some of the brighter spot here, okay? And we have some left, and it's a problem because I don't want any highlights on this mountain, otherwise it's going to look kind of weird. And then I'm going to do the same thing here above this one. I'm going to click here and put this into overlay. And I usually do this on every photo that I do, and then I'm just going to brush here to make this part darker. You know, you can make it in Lightroom too. So this way we just only have like the shape of the mountains. And this, I think I'm a little too bright here now, so I can go back here because it's, you know, as you adjust one item, you have to compare it to all the others, you know. So I think I went a little too bright. I'm going to lower my white point, lower my exposure. Okay, so the cool thing is you can take different parts of your photo, and because you're into Camera Raw, you can double click on it, and because it's a smart object, and you can adjust it, and then, you know, just make them match a little more. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the matching. It's time that we insert some 3D elements. So I basically use a software called Blender, and Blender is a free software that I love to use. I'm really bad at it, but I love to use it. I'm learning it right now. And there is a website called Blender Swap where you can download some free assets, and you just have to give a shout out to people. So you can see the shout out that I did on the asset in the description of the video. But basically this asset, I put it into Blender, and I added also a character from Maximo, which is an amazing website. I'll do a full tutorial on this whole 3D thing next week. But for now, I'm giving you the file that's ready to go. If you've got any cliff, you can just drag and drop that file in your cliff and you will be good to go. So I'm going to take the move tool. So all I have to do is drag and drop it here on the Santa Monica photo, which is here. And you can see it's too small. So I'm going to make it here. I'm going to put it maybe around here. Press Command T, and I'm going to make it much bigger here and much bigger there. All right. And now you need to make it match exactly. So I'm going to create a mask, and I'm going to press Z for zoom. I'm going to zoom in. Okay. B for brush. So remember, black is my foreground color, opacity 100%. And this time I'm going to use a brush where I'm going to put the hardness at 80%. Why do I put the hardness at 80%? Well, let me show you. And this is a mistake I've done many times. So let's say you have the hardness at 0% and you have a big brush and you want to make a very clean selection. You're going to have something like this. It's going to look like weird. You're going to have like a feathering. So Command Z to undo. Now, if your hardness is around 80% and you have a small brush, your hardness is around 80%, and now I can click here, I can make it very small, I can really Z for zooming in, I can take a really small brush and I can be very precise, and I'm not going to create like a feathering effect. I can be really, really precise, and what you can do is you can go overboard here, and press X to bring back just what you want. Press X again to take out what you want. And, you know, just play around with it. I'm just going to make it like this. Like this. There's different ways, but this I'm going to erase. That should be good enough. I mean, that's going to be really small. Nobody's going to, this is going to watch so much details. Same here, brush. I'm going to erase this. And I'm going to erase this. I'm going to pretend that the pole is behind this rock here. Voila. Maybe erase that. Erase that. Yeah, it's going to pretend it goes behind it. Okay, cool. The second thing is you can zoom in and you can fine tune. I like to look at my mask, you know, at like 200%. And you see here, there's something weird. That's going to happen when you do selection. So how can you get rid of that? Well, it's a little tricky, but let me show you. So this is just fine-tune points. So I'm going to click on this one, which is the left side. Okay, I'm going to take the lasso tool here, or press L or lasso tool, and I'm going to make a selection where we have an issue. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit here. Yeah, Alpha lasso tool. So we have a little issue here, okay? So, and then I'm going to go on the mask. So I'm on the mask where there is an issue, and that's because this part here, actually, let me make a bigger selection. All right, so I made a quick selection of this, and now I'm on the mask. That's very important. You have to be on the mask. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and this time I'm going to Gaussian Blur just like half a pixel. And what that's going to do is make the mask. Let me show you. If I press Alt on my keyboard and click on the mask, you can see here it makes this section of the mask a little bit more blurry. Here it's very crisp, and here it's a little more blurry. That's what I wanted. And now, here comes the magic. You press Ctrl L, and that's going to open up the level, okay, the levels on the mask. I'm on the mask and I'm doing levels, and I'm going to play, just check this out. You see how there's a little fringe here, and I'm going to move this on the right side, and you see, boom, the fringe is gone. Because what that's doing is making my mask a little smaller just in this part. And voila, so all you have to do is you make a selection with the lasso tool, you blur it, half a Gaussian blur, and then you do a levels and you go left just to make your mask a little smaller. But only do it in the areas of trouble. Okay, I can look here, it's pretty clean. Here we have a little bit of an issue, there's a bit of transparency coming up. So I have to go back on this mask here, B, and make sure I am hardness at 0 again. And this time I want to bring some white, so white, and I want to bring back some of the sky. Okay, so I make sure the mask is perfect. Yeah, it all match. It's pretty cool. And now I'm ready for what I call the final development. So that's very easy. I go on top, and now I'm going to do the worst keyboard shortcut of all time. I don't know why that is. And it's basically a keyboard shortcut that's going to create a layer with everything that we've done so far. So you press Command, Alt, Shift, E. And that's going to create a layer. It's like merging everything, but on top, okay? And on this layer, I'm going to go to Filter, Camera Raw, and I'm just going to do some final tweaking. So I'm going to put up some shadows. I'm going to bring on some highlights, just a little bit. I'm going to do the black. I'm going to do the white. You can see here there's some highlights that I don't like. And there is too much color here. So I'm going to take a brush, and you click here on minus saturation. It's going to put everything down to 0 except saturation. And now I'm just going to brush over that, and that's going to take out some of the saturation. I think there's a little too much red on the rocks, and I'm just going to take care of that. Okay, voila. And okay, I can go back here on my end and maybe just add an overall contrast, overall exposure. You know, you can go crazy, add some vibrance. I like very vibrant photo, something like this. Some people like it like this. You know, you decide. I like this. Some other people like this. I like this. Some other, you know, it's up to you. I'm going to boost the vibrance. And the last thing I'm going to do is, because I'm on a layer that's taking everything into account, and it's not a smart object anymore, you can see before and after, it's subtle. I'm going to take this tool here called the Spot Healing Brush Tool. And you see here, there's some flowers that's catching some highlights. And I'm just going to brush over them. I want to take out this little white point because it's going to help. You can zoom in. It's going to help sell the idea that this was truly at night. So you don't want any flowers to catch some highlights here. And by just using this tool, it's really easy to erase some of the highlights that this cliff is taking. Maybe leave that, that's kind of fine, but that's a little too much. And yeah, just to make it a bit more believable, you know, this is some highlights I want to erase. And this tool is just going to, it's like the stem tool, it's just going to sort of mix up the texture, but it's so dark that you won't be able to see anything. You know, you don't have to do it, but you know, I really wanted to give you a full idea of how to do something like this. I think this is kind of a great experience to learn Photoshop. And voila, I'm pretty much done with it. So let me recap what we've done so far. So we started by using this photo of Santa Monica. We added the right side of the cliff. We made it a bit darker. We added the left side of the cliff. We made it a bit darker. We added the sky. We made the sky brighter. We added a 3D element and we did some final touch about it. All right, so you will see here a video that's going to come out next Friday. If you're seeing that after Friday, it will be available, where I show you how I created in Blender the rope bridge and how I added the character using Maximo. It's amazing. Also, you can check out this video I did, which is dodging and burning in Lightroom. Dodging and burning is probably my biggest secret weapon over the last 15 years. Check out that video. I'm going to tell you everything that I know about dodge and burning. Thank you very much.